Knights at the Round Table, a round table discussion on speculative fiction books and film. Hi everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Knights at the Round Table. Today we are discussing the 1999 fantasy action, I guess, film The Mummy. I'm sitting at the table with Marjolaine and with Mike, and I'd like to start with general impressions of the film. Mike, you're new, so you get to go first.
Sweet. So this movie really hits a sweet spot for me. I grew up, and I know this is in no way unique, but I grew up watching like the Spielberg movies, the Lucas movies, the throwbacks to like 30s and 40s serials, and like you know, trashy B movie action adventure spectacles done with an A movie budget, like that kind of thing. And I'm always on the lookout for the next movie that's actually going to do that well and do it justice, because many movies try to imitate it, and I always just felt like this one kind of nailed it. I mean, obviously it's Indiana Jones light, but it really nailed it, and I also saw it when I was 13 years old, and it really just hit me at the exact right time, and so I have a real soft spot for this movie, so I really like it.
Marjolaine?
That movie was also a big nostalgia fest for me. Saw it in the teenage years, and I really, really liked it then. It's been a while since I watched it. I mean, I've rewatched it yesterday to prepare for the panel. But yeah, it was one that I really, really liked, and I think it held up pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah. I also watched this when I was a teenager. I remember liking it, but not loving it. And I'm in the same position now. I like it. It's a fun movie, and it is sort of in the vein of those old school sort of action adventure movies, which can be really super fun. But also, I wasn't enamored with it. I do miss old school Brendan Fraser, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was good. I mean, like, you don't, not every actor can kind of do that kind of suave but goofy, like, you know, feels like he's on top of it, but constantly, you know, actually, like, reacting to everything and everything. Not everybody has that kind of, like, and again, it's, you know, this movie is Indiana Jones light. He is very much Harrison Ford light in this movie, but, like, he gets enough of that, I think, charisma that I think he actually really works in that role.
Yeah, he does. He works in this role. Can I also say that I am super impressed with the amount of research that went into this film. They got a lot of things right, including the Magi, who I don't think they were exactly the Pharaoh's bodyguards, but they certainly were the Pharaoh's peacekeepers in ancient Egypt, and the sickle swords. Right at the end, some of the Guardians wake up and they have these weird shaped swords that are sort of straight up and then they curl around like this. Actual weaponry in ancient Egypt. And I was really impressed with them for that. They did their research and it shows. I enjoyed that a lot.
Not fair enough. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Also, but I have gripes. What? Me? First of all, bare hands on a 3,000-year-old manuscript. No scholar in their right mind would ever let that happen. And I saw it happen, and then I went, like, my little academic heart broke. I'm like, you were going to ruin that with the acid on your hands? Like, what are you doing? Put white gloves on, you fool!
This is set in the 1920s when people were raping and pillaging the King Tut's
but still, they were at least treating...
Like
I mean, it's not that they shouldn't have done it, but you still treat treasures like treasures, right? Mm-hmm. And manuscripts, to me, are absolute treasures. Yeah. You shouldn't be touching a manuscript with bare hands. Ever.
What she working in the library?
Me. Yeah,
she should have been wearing her gloves all the time.
Yeah, she was working in a library and alongside antiquities. This is something she should have known.
A library that's really, really empty. I mean, nobody's around when those bookshelves go down. Nobody's around. Not even like what are the three things? Like, it's like Abdul, Muhammad, and Bob who are supposed to be around, and then
that is so funny. Those lines.
And then Jonathan somehow sneaks into her sarcophagus. Like, nobody's really around to see.
Yeah, starts playing around with the mummy, also with his bare hands. But that line made me laugh. She's like, Abdul, Muhammad,
Bob. That's good.
It was good. That was very funny writing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, what I like, the type of movie they're going for, I mean, it's not just kind of a big special effects laden action adventure, but it's that, like, it's that movie from, like, the 30s or the 40s where, you know, it was just like, this was your big day out, you're going to the movies, so we're gonna put everything in here. Like, this isn't just like an action adventure, but there's like screwball slapstick comedy in here, and there's a romance in here, and there's like something for the kids, and it's just like, one of those movies where that they made back then that just had to appeal to every single member of the audience, and they just kind of throw everything in there, and it works, and it's like exciting and fun and funny and thrilling. Yes. And and the special effects aren't overdone. I think that's a product of the time where, computer effects were still very nascent, and it was only 6 years after Jurassic Park, and so they had to do things practically. And I know, like, looking at Stephen Sommers' future movies, like later movies, none of which I like, he just goes way, way overboard on the CGI in every one of his future movies, I guess just because he can. But luckily, due to just like, the limitations of the time, he was restrained in this one, and it actually like balances out really, really nicely, and it holds up, I think, better because of that.
Yeah, there were a number of really funny gags. Like, one of the characters says, "I just have that kind of face," and then gets punched. He was, what's his face's brother?
Jonathan. Yeah.
Jonathan. Yeah, he just, I just have that kind of face, and then he gets punched, and I'm like, yeah, punchable face. Yeah, that's great. Good gag, guys.
Johanna is a gift on humanity.
Oh, he's great. I wish I saw more of him because, I probably first saw him like a lot of people in Four Weddings and a Funeral.
Yeah.
With
Did you notice his English accent slip a little?
Oh, yeah.
Towards the end of the film, yeah. He went full Scottish there for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I went,
yeah. But he's great. Yeah, he's perfect in that role, right? Like the screw up like comic relief who's just like tagging along, but then like I think
has a purpose.
Yeah, this character they treat their characters really well in the movie, I think, and like even he like doesn't screw up 100% of the time. Like when he has to do what he has to do, he does.
He's very useful when he has the Book of Amun-Ra.
Yeah.
Although he can't recognize all the symbols because he didn't pay attention in hieroglyphics class or something.
Doesn't know how to sound it out quite right.
Yeah. So there are two things about this movie that I remembered before I sat down to watch it last night, and one of them was the Imhotep, and then the other one was the cat. That's all I remembered from this movie, so obviously it didn't make a huge impression on me.
Speaking of the Imhotep scene, one thing I like, once you see it, you can't unsee it, and I listened to the commentary, and this would happen. So when they're converging on that place where they're reading from the tablet, trying to find out where the Book of Life is, or the Book of the Living, is it? Anyway,
the Book of the Living.
And they're coming, Imhotep's walking there, and all the people with all the boils and sores have like lined up behind him, and there's one person just to Imhotep's left, whose eyes are just like blank, and I'm like, is this like a blind person, or are these like contacts they put in or something like that? And apparently that extra kept looking at the camera, looked like just straight down the barrel of the camera and would not stop doing it. And so just in post, this is when they were first starting to discover these solutions. They're like, well, why don't we just white out his eyes with CGI, and then, easy peasy. So now whenever you see this guy, it's just this guy, and like he has very noticeably like no pupils or irises, just like white milky eyes, and it's just like, I always thought that was weird, and then I listened to the commentary, I'm like, oh, okay, that's why. And now he's all I look at in that scene.
Oh, speaking of things that steal scenes, there's a part towards the end of the movie where they're already in the chamber getting ready for the ritual, and Imhotep, it turns around, and it's a focus on Imhotep, but Evie and what's it, the German dude that was with Brendan Fraser right at the beginning, who turns into
Benny.
Yeah, Evie and Benny are having a little slap fight behind him, and they stole that scene from the poor guy who played Imhotep, because it's literally just the two. Just in the background of that shot.
Well, that's when they come out of the sandstorm.
Yeah. It's just hilarious.
That's good.
I was laughing so much.
Benny's great. Like, think of my children. You don't have any children. One day I might.
One day I might.
Yeah. And like, he's exactly the type of character that could just be too much, and he just walks that line for me. Like, I could totally see somebody watching this movie and being like, oh my god, Benny's so annoying. Like, every time he's there, he annoyed me. I could see that and be like, I can't argue with you. But for me, he's just right at that line of not being annoying enough for me to like be upset by it. It's just like, it's perfect.
I do have a question though. When he is first contracted, I guess, by Imhotep, and then shows him his gold.
Mm-hmm.
Where was
gold? Was that gold? Was he storing it in an open chest cavity?
Yeah, so like, he probably went like, because he knows all the secret passageways and everything to here.
Yeah, but he had just finished a fight
I think he probably like.
No,
I think he probably. There's an unseen scene where he found that.
Yeah,
I think.
They just didn't think about it, and they're like, "Here, have some gold." And my logical brain was like, "Excuse me."
He knows where the gold's kept. So I want to say, like, just, you know, maybe we could start a conversation about this, and I know you guys are going to have a lot to say about it, so maybe I'll let you get going. I personally think that the main female character in this film, Evie, I'm actually really impressed with her depiction in the movie. Like, she is smart, she knows what she's doing, but she's also, like, she's not, like, perfect, right? Like, she's not, like, the tender female character who, like, does everything right and is brilliant and everything like that. She's the one who causes all this. She's overly curious. She reads from the Book of the Dead. She raises the mummy, and then it's all about trying to, like, fix her mistake. But, like, she's very smart and she's very capable, and like, she's right there with everybody. I mean, unfortunately, she gets captured and fills in that damsel in distress role. But I feel like they've done enough with her character up to that point that I can forgive that, you know, and I think they did a good job, but I want to hear what you guys think.
I think for this movie, you kind of need a damsel in distress. I mean, that's the kind of movie it is. I will give them credit, though, that she is a very brave damsel in distress who keeps her head in the middle of a fight. She is fighting, what's her name?
Anck-su-namun.
Anck-su-namun, thank you. The mummy of Anck-su-namun. And also helping her brother translate the Book of Life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's clumsy, a little bit naive, I think. That whole sort of sweet, innocent thing that they may have been going for, but she is brilliant, she's clever, and she's brave. And she's the one who sets them off on the whole, look, we did this, we're going to fix it. So while Brendan Fraser is, like, trying to pack her suitcase, she's simultaneously
what do you mean
unpacking.
Yeah. What do you mean we?
What is this we? Yeah.
He's trying to run away. He's like, let's just get out of Dodge. Let's get away from this. Like, this is beyond us. She's like, no, we did it. Like,
yeah, we did it.
She is propelling the plot in a lot of cases. She has a lot of agency, and you don't see that in this kind of movie all the time.
No, that's true. Usually they're just
that.
damsels, and they exist for screaming and fainting. So yeah, I did like her very much. I do wish she was a little less breathy, though, and wide-eyed at the world. That really annoyed me. But I liked her well enough.
It's because when I was watching that movie, especially the first time, was right on the verge of having watched Terminator 2 or something. Like, my parents had a DVD, and not DVD, was a VHS then, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yes. And that kind of action-oriented female, like the
Sarah Connor.
She is no Sarah Connor.
Yeah, she is no Sarah Connor. But there were also a lot of Sarah Connor knockoffs at the time, and maybe I was getting a little bit tired of the trope, and I wanted to see, because I am not at all a Sarah Connor type of person. I would be much more an Evie, and I liked seeing someone who wasn't necessarily good in a fight and who was a bit clumsy and gotten over her head and was just really, really book smart, but very book smart, and I appreciate
it's her book smarts that got them in trouble, and it's her book smarts that saved them.
Yes.
Yeah, and even just like she's there as like sort of as an object of affection for like Imhotep and everything like that, but it makes sense. It's not necessarily like a romance, and she's not falling in love with him or under a spell or anything like that. It's literally just she's the body, she's the receptacle basically for the new Anck-su-namun to go into, and that's why he needs her. There is kind of a functional thing to the love story. Now, like especially if you look at the 1933 Mummy, there is kind of that romantic quality to Imhotep and the Mummy historically in these movies, and it is all about like he was in love with this woman, and it was like a forbidden love, and that's what got him in trouble, and it's all about trying to get her back. And like how did you guys find that, like the whole like the romantic quality of the Mummy himself?
I think as a plot device, it's actually pretty impressive. I enjoyed that little story of why he's doing what he's doing. I mean, people have done really dumb things for love, like really, really stupid things. Like really seriously stupid things.
Like touch body paint on the Pharaoh's
on the Pharaoh's mistress, yeah. I loved her statement at just before she killed herself, where she's like, my body's no longer his temple, and then she kills herself, and I'm like, ooh, I like you, you are great. I want to give a big nod to the Magi. So Assassin's Creed Origins, by the way, has ruined me for this movie, but I really love the idea of the Magi as a collective, outliving the age of pharaohs, and their sole purpose now is to contain the evil that is in... that the mummy later will become. And I also liked that even though they're pseudo-villains, they're not actually villains. To be honest, they're the heroes of this film. Like, they're the good guys. They're trying to stop this evil thing coming. They're trying to stop the 10 plagues and then the mummy taking over the world. That's their mandate.
3,000 years old ancestor created in the first place.
Yeah, I always nitpick that kind of thing. It's like, when did they realize that this was a mistake? Clearly it was after they performed this, like, terrible curse on this thing that if he ever came back, it would be a plague on the world. So first of all, the possibility of him coming back was very real, but the possibility of him coming back with this curse was even worse. So they immediately started a 3,000 year watch on it. Like, I wonder if there's any gaps in there where they're just like, it's been 2,000 years and nothing's really happened.
But then they don't.
Maybe we should move on and do other things with our lives. Like,
well, I don't know. I enjoyed that. I like the idea of the Magi outliving the age of pharaohs, and I really love that they basically all give their life to this sacred mandate, basically. And the head Magi I was particularly fond of.
Oded Fair. What's his name in the movie?
Ardit Bay?
Oh yeah. You're right.
Wow, Jesus!
That's it.
Yeah, he was awesome, and I like that he survived at the end to provide that one last jump scare. I really liked the Magi. Though I have to say, Assassin's Creed ruined me. Both with the reference of the Magi, with the reference of Imhotep, and then the mirrors. Oh my god, the mirrors! Because there are a number of puzzles in Assassin's Creed Origins where you place the mirrors and they open doors for you, etc., etc. So yeah, every time something like that happened, I'd just be like,
the Mythbusters actually did the mirrors thing.
It was the Mythbusters that ruined the mirror thing for me.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah, they tested it.
Yeah, they tested and you can't get enough light with that because you lose some every single time.
Yeah, because of the diffusion.
But I also I love the disposable supporting cast. Like, I love the ticking clock of, like, he has to get to every one of those, like, dumbass Americans to, like,
no
kill them. But also, like, you just wonder, like, it could have been any of them that he killed and took the eyes and the tongue. But it was the guy with glasses who needed glasses. That's the one that the mummy stole the eyes from, and it's like they could have had it be anyone else who didn't have glasses, but they wanted to pair it with the the scary scene of he lost his glasses and can't find his way, right? And then
I saw it more as a way of him seeing Evie and mistaking her for Anaxunamon.
That's a good vision.
Because of the poor vision.
Yeah. That's how
good.
I interpreted it.
That's really good. That I never thought of that.
That's a good connection.
Good job. Yeah. That was my one little, like, it's nitpicking beyond nitpicking, but that was my one little thing.
That's
of,
what
like,
this panel is for.
Fair enough. Yeah, but then even, like, just introducing, like, the old drunken World War I pilot, basically just to fly them through the sandstorm face and then die immediately.
He died with a smile on his face.
Yeah. It's what he wanted.
It's what he wanted. To join the rest of his squadron, I guess.
But going back to the whole idea of, like, a 1930s, 40s movie, these would have been made in like, the studio system and everything like that, and that role would have been for this, like, they would have slotted in whatever, like, kind of old, comedian guy that they had, and that would have been his showcase role, and that's what it feels like, right? It's like, if you go to, like, a bunch of Universal movies in this time, this guy's gonna pop up in a bunch of movies playing, like, that kind of guy, and this is him in this movie. So it really worked for me. I mean, like, a lot of those characters don't even register, but they're not supposed to. They're just supposed to come in, be a character, and then leave,
drive the plot, really, and off they go. Yeah.
It's really good.
I enjoy it. The thing that made me go, huh? Was the Magi. Would they actually be invoking Ella at the end? I mean, because they are working off an ancient curse from a time when there was way more than one god, and then the curse actually comes to life. So would Allah really be their religious fixed point? Like, it happened right at the end. The Magi, before he rides off, goes, and may Allah be with you or watch over you or something like that. And then I went, yeah. But the curse was that. And it came true. So, what?
If you know gods exist, why wouldn't you worship the one?
The one. Yeah, maybe that was his name for, like, Amun-Ra or something. Like, I don't know. I don't know, but
the god in chart changes all the time in ancient Egyptian religion, so...
Well,
I also think they just wanted it to be like a, it was something that
obviously
audiences would understand.
They're
right?
in Egypt, right?
Yeah.
So it would be because Egypt is a majority Muslim country. But at the same time, I'm like, wait, what? See, this is, again, nitpicking in the extreme, but this is the way my brain works. And I'm just like, wouldn't it be... Never mind. Okay, whatever. Fine, be like that. Alright. Are there any other thoughts that you want to convey before we go to a star rating, Marjolaine?
Nothing that pops to mind. Well, actually, the only thing I would say is the opening scene. I think they did a better job of... Well, not just the opening scene, but that was the one that struck me, not quite the opening, when they are doing the mummification. Mm-hmm. The mummifying the priest alive.
Yeah, the ritual.
Yeah, the ritual. That was more horror than I remember the movie being when I first watched it.
Oh, yeah.
Or even like the scarab in the warden guy's
Yeah,
body. Like, I remember as a
screen.
13-year-old boy, again, just being like, oh man, look at that. That's cool. But gross, right?
Yeah.
Cool and gross. That's what 13-year-old boys like a lot of the time.
Yeah, I did remember the scarab thing, but I had completely, like... I remembered most of the movie, but I think I just put a big buffer layer on the really gross part, on the emotional trauma.
See, the thing that caused me more emotional trauma, rather than watching that, is when they pried off the lid of the coffin and you see the scratches. I'm oh no, that is like worst nightmare for me. No. That made me go, oh my god.
It must have taken a while, too, because they wrapped him up, so he had to, like, shimmy out of the wrappings and then be able to do it while the scarabs are, like, eating him or whatever, right? So if I could go off on, like, just, like, a tangent about, like, one, like, tiny significant thing about this movie. So, like... This is a summer blockbuster. It was actually a really big surprise hit summer blockbuster, and people didn't really expect it to be that big. It came out like 12 days before Star Wars Episode 1, which of course was going to be like the big start of the summer and everything. And traditionally, like originally when the summer movie season started, it was like, end of June, start of July, like that's when Jaws came out, but then very quickly Star Wars moved the official start date for the summer to Memorial Day weekend, and that's when the first big movie of the summer always came out, all the Star Wars movies, the Indiana Jones movies, that kind of thing. But things had been kind of creeping a bit earlier. Every once in a while there'd be a somewhat bigger hit from like earlier in May. But The Mummy came out the first weekend of May, 1999, and it was such a big surprise hit that it made the start of May the new official start of the summer, and that's basically where we've been ever since. Like,
really?
And so the biggest movie, or the first big movie of the summer usually comes out the first weekend of May, and although like a couple movies had done it before, like The Fifth Element was in 97, or like Twister came out towards the start of May in 96, like this was the movie that everyone's like, you know what, let's just go all May. All of May is going to be the big summer movie season month, and so yeah, The Mummy did that, and then 2 years later, The Mummy Returns came out the first weekend of May, and everyone's like, oh, this will probably be the biggest movie of the summer, and it had changed that quickly, and The Mummy did that, so.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it is a fun romp. It's not a thinker.
No, it's not a thinker. I was surprised when you said they'd done a lot of research. I'm like, I think they just threw together a bunch of mummy stuff, but maybe they did.
They did a fair amount of research. Yeah. I was impressed, because I was also expecting, like, this is just going to be, like, weird prop things and then designs that make no sense, but they got a lot of it right. Fair. Alright, so star rating? Mike?
Again, like, if I tried to look at this objectively, I would probably give lower, but I have to include the nostalgia factor, and like this, and this is taking into account the fact that like I didn't like any of the follow-ups to this movie at all, or Stephen Sommers' future movies or anything, but this movie I thought was really, really solid. I really, really enjoy it. I will watch it, every couple of years, and it'll just put a big smile on my face, so I'm actually going to go with a 4 for this one.
Yeah, okay. Marsha?
Maybe a 3. I guess I don't have the big nostalgia factor that I had for, say, X-Men for this one, but I did really like it when I first watched it, and I thought it held up pretty well, and lots of fun little details.
Yeah.
So.
Same for me.
Yeah,
3. A lot of really funny gags, a lot of repeated gags, like the random, like, breathy, that flutters the flames, and then O'Connell saying that happens a lot around here. Little stuff like that, very funny. I really enjoyed it, but there were a few things that got under my skin with this movie. So yeah, a 3.
Not
it's a
just
solid
scarabs?
movie. No, just scarabs. All right. Since you're the new person, you get to pick the next movie.
Ooh, that's exciting. All right, let's pick this one. Oh, I had 2. There we go.
Oh.
All right. You did this to me.
Oh, Hamlet.
Bahubali: The Conclusion from
Oh!
2016.
Oh, I know. Yes. Okay. So, Bahubali. Have you watched
No.
it? Okay. This is. I love this film. You're not going to be on this
I'm not gonna be on that panel.
Marjolaine did not like the first part. So Bahubali. Actually, not that long ago, we reviewed the beginning. This is now the conclusion. It is a fantastic Indian fantasy epic. So that's what we'll be watching next week. If you have any thoughts about The Mummy, leave them down below. That's the 1999 version with Brendan Fraser et al.
No Tom Cruise here.
No, yeah. And thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!
That panel's all wrapped up.
Eric, I'm going to hurt you.